Good morning. Welcome to the Thursday pre-New Year's Eve show for NBA betting. Back after a nice, quick 40-hour round trip drive, Mike Lockey is back in the house and joining us. Back off of some just a little bit of chaos yesterday. Matt Mazelman always with us. I am Mike G. We are going to jump straight into talking about some of that nonsense. A lot of news yesterday. Matt, what can we take from yesterday in terms of all that was possible, all that happened? What should we have done? Let's talk about the chaos from yesterday. Wherever you want to start, there was plenty of it. So you take the lead.
Yeah, there was so much, and it was a very exhausting day. I think it was a good point by you yesterday morning to tell me to tweet more specifically about what was going on. We really needed that yesterday. Um, so which game? Which game? Like we had.
I want to hear about the Hawks game because that was
Okay.
my favorite one to listen to. I did listen to the show yesterday, and
Okay.
I was fascinated to hear how you guys ended up playing the Hawks game.
Well, Clint Capella getting ruled out early, as we talked about, was not at all what we wanted because Capella is not valued by the market nearly as much as Trae Young. And we kind of just know that from past experience. Like, how many Hawks situations have we had at this point where Trae or Capella or both were on the injury report? Seems like it happens, once every 2 or 3 weeks. So we got Capella ruled out early, and then we got everyone else as a game time decision. And that made it so we were basically not going to have a Hawks spread bet no matter what. We were basically just looking at the total. So the opening total was 238 or so, and it had dropped to 233 with all of the news that I just said, with Capella out and then everyone else, we weren't sure. And it was going to go up maybe like 7 points or potentially down like another 4 points. It was definitely, everything was skewed to me closer to Trae being out. And that was why I went on Twitter and mentioned the DeJounte Murray props, because his assist numbers are like the thing. I think we mentioned it one other time. That is like the number one prop player wise in the NBA that is affected by another player in that guy's starting lineup. So to like explain what that means, there are a lot of players who come off the bench where if the starter is out, they will just play more minutes and their props are going to go crazy because of that. But Murray doesn't actually play any more minutes with Trae out. He just has the ball way more. So Dinwiddie and Luka are kind of like this. I think Trae and Murray are kind of like this. And DeJounte Murray normally has an assist line of around 5.5. That's his prop for most games. Facing Brooklyn is kind of like a neutral matchup. And I was tweeting, maybe I'll just show the tweet. That'll be, yeah, okay. I actually do have it. Here we go. So the tweet that I'm quoting here was the first one when they first posted Bogdanovich and Murray, and it was at around 7.5, which is much closer to what we'd see with Trae out. And then as it got closer to game time, the Murray assist line started coming down because it was starting to look like Trae Young might play. So I was basically putting this out there as a tell about what other sharps thought the probability of Trae Young playing was, because I didn't know. Like it was really hard to tell in this situation. We didn't really have anything. There was no shoot around. Apparently the 5 p.m. walkthrough was closed to the media, so like we didn't really have much. But it's possible some people have connections that I don't have, and they may be the ones betting the DeJounte Murray props. So Murray's assist line actually was falling close to tip off. And what I also put out there was that if hold on. Yeah, okay, never mind. This is all in one tweet, so I don't have to scroll through. If Trae did get ruled out, I was gonna like over 6.5 because Murray's assist lines are like 8.5 in games Trae plays. So you kind of have to get creative sometimes, or you just have to listen to me get creative, because that's why we're doing this, right? Like you don't have to recreate these situations.
There's a
for
really
yourself.
big art to betting NBA in all forms, and that was actually a long chat Mike and I had before this show even started. And I absolutely, your account having notifications on is important, and I definitely like to respond to a lot of this stuff. I wasn't able to mostly because I was driving yesterday, but if you see Matt make a post, you have notifications on, just interact with that post as much as you can, because Matt always dings right back and has something to say. So make sure you're using that to your advantage.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was offline for a bit. and then when I finally was able to check props, he was already at 8.5. This was obviously late in the day.
There are methods that I have to getting these props in that we've only really talked about offline that maybe I'll save for another time. Maybe I'll just never tell people because they're so intricate that one, like I don't really want to give them away, and two, I'm not sure that most people could really apply them that easily. But aside from that, like the prop market is a good way to at least get an indicator of what people think is going to happen. So it's just another way to find out what's going on. So
ways to read the tea leaves.
Yeah, and I think the Murray assist line, like I've just sort of developed this as a habit over the last year or two of looking to this to see like how are the sharp people betting in a way that might tell us if the player is going to play or not. So I was able to get some Murray assist props when Trae got ruled out, but for everyone else, like the under was a good bet with Trae not playing, and we had talked about it being barely a good bet. It clearly worked out well. I do think most people probably were not able to get a bet at all on this game because when the game started, the line was 8. We had the projected line at 8, so there was no edge there, and the total had only dropped by like 3 points. So yeah, this was like a lot of work for not much unless you were really able to get like super into the weeds and find a Murray prop or get the under super early. Like what you could have done for this game was bet the under the night before when Trae got injured against Indiana and then hedge it back if he wound up playing. But ultimately, like with Young out, Bogdanovich in, and Capella out, that's a very like contradictory news break where Trae being out brings the game total down, but Bogey being in brings it up, and then Capella being out also brings it up. So it didn't go the way we wanted.
The reverse correlation between Trae and Capella is actually really fascinating on this team. And I remember we had a day where I think it was either the Memphis or the Pelicans center and guard combos were on the other side of this, and they were all 4 questionable. And like trying to map out the game total possibilities when there's 2 relevant centers that affect the under with 2 guards that affect the pace of play in an incredible way, like some of these elite guards do. I just find it really fascinating. And you know, you look at Capella's numbers with and without Trae, it's like really drastic. He drops off a ton in his production, just like the way they fit together is pretty fascinating.
Yeah, they fit together offensively, and then they have these opposite effects in terms of the total, and it's just like there's a lot going on between those 2 players.
Yeah,
there's so much of an impact that collectively they have on the game. So that game, like really, there wasn't that much that was actionable. It was just unless you got a Murray assist prop, but other than that, it was just like another game where I think you were able to learn a lot if you're new to monitoring injury news of just how it works. And also Kevin C did tweet out the Trae being out news like 4 or 5 seconds before underdog. So it did help to be able to get a bet in slightly earlier because we did get that update from him first.
Did you get any game total bets in?
I bet it the morning. I'm trying to remember when I did. I bet it super early. I didn't add any more when Trae got ruled out because it had already dropped so much. And when Trae got ruled out, it was 233, and the closing total was only 231. But when he left the game the prior night, I had a little bit at under 238 because that's what it was to the opening line. Because this line was up, and then he hurt himself late in the prior game.
When I was able to check, it was already at 231.5. So this one was a lot of study, a lot of prep, and then no action for me. But there was a lot of good learnings from this one.
So the Lakers Heat game was the same thing because this one will be quicker. But was that also the same thing where there were just no bets for you guys?
Yep.
Yeah, and there shouldn't have been. I got lucky here to have bet Miami -8 when I shouldn't have because Kyle Lowry ended up getting ruled out. That was the thing that kind of like nuked the value that we had. So we had Butler and Bam and LeBron all questionable. They all played, and then right before tip-off, Lowry got scratched. And he wasn't on the injury report.
If only we spent time studying injuries and being prepared for all possibilities.
Right.
Except for the Miami Heat.
We gave 14 if-thens, and then the Heat decided to just be weird.
Yeah, and we stand in solidarity with the underdog Twitter group in hating the Miami Heat. So let's just move on.
Yeah.
What about that Bucks Bulls game? We had a Caruso out. We had yet another Grayson Allen pissing off people on the Bucks.
Yeah.
What do we take from this game?
Well, this was another one where there shouldn't have been a bet. I bet Chicago and then bet it back the other way because Drew Holiday got ruled out of nowhere, but then Caruso got ruled out, and those guys actually are about similar value.
Okay.
The Bulls ended up winning, and the Bulls were actually down by 6 with like 30 seconds left. I don't know what is with teams lately not being able to hold leads. Detroit, and then that Knicks-Mavs game, and then this. Like, Giannis turned the ball over twice at the end, and they blew the game and lost in overtime. But, yeah, it was definitely worth betting Chicago when Drew got ruled out, but then Milwaukee became a slight value when Caruso got ruled out, because we had talked about the Bucks maybe being a good bet. So
Yep.
I was playing for a middle, and it would have needed Milwaukee to win by some number of points anyway. But yeah, it was kind of lost in the news cycle of yesterday because we didn't plan for that. Drew was probable, and then he just wound up out of nowhere.
Right.
So there wasn't really much to take from this game. Yeah, there were at least a few games yesterday where we just didn't have anything to worry about. So that was good because we had those other few where there was just so much.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, the only other one of those that we should talk about is the Sacramento-Denver game. And yeah, Utah also didn't win, which was upsetting, just in general. But Sacramento-Denver, the one thing I did say about Sacramento that was concrete, which hopefully people remembered, even though it was, by the time we got this news, it was like 11 hours after the show. But when Sabonis was in, what I'd said is if Sabonis is in, we can take Sacramento.
Mm-hmm.
It'll range just how good it is, but at the time, the Kings were like plus 2.5 when we did the show. They were underdogs for the game.
Yeah. Those words were ringing my ears, and then I made the bet, but it was at minus 1.5 instead of plus 1.5. But
it wasn't like a bad bet at that point. The closing line was actually Kings minus 3.5.
Okay. Yeah. No, I looked at it according to what our sheet had at the time. I thought I was getting 4.1 points of value. It was actually only 1.1 points of value, which probably should have been a pass. Just a weird game, but the biggest takeaway for me here is apparently the best way to improve my own basketball game is just to get an avulsion fracture because Sabonis doesn't seem slowed down by this fractured thumb that he has.
Yeah.
He's still putting up the numbers.
Break your hand and then play against Nikola Jokic. That's a good way to make sure you're still good.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, modern medicine's pretty fascinating, but what is playing like a broken thumb look like after the first few games?
I don't know. It is his offhand, which is the only reason he has a chance to be able to do it.
What was it in like a brace or anything or like?
No, he was wearing a light glove when he was sitting on the sideline the game before. I didn't see what it was, but he's not in any sort of cast or anything. It's a thumb fracture. It's not even a full break, and it's just one finger. So if he can dribble through it, it probably hurts, but I don't think it's affecting his mobility. I think they were just giving him a day on Wednesday or on Tuesday to like get the swelling down a bit.
Gotcha. All right, let's shift to today and talk about what possibilities there are. What should we be on the lookout for?
Okay, let's get odds screen ready. Let's get some betting odds.
Let's actually talk about that Dallas game first, because if somebody's looking at the sheet, this is what I did. As soon as I saw the sheet, I'm like, ooh, we have a bet on Dallas right now. There's 3 points of value.
Yeah.
But you're saying we've got some potential sneaky Luka rest possibilities?
Yeah, I'm debating if I want to put Luka's name down here or not, because I think he's most likely going to play, like 80% minimum, probably more like 90. And all I really want to do is have people wait until tip-off.
Okay.
Because I don't think this line is going to move much. Like, we're different from the market, and there's no news here. And I think the public is on Houston because there are two ideas. One is Dallas has been bad, like coming off these overtime or close games or whatever. But I think the more relevant thing people know about, or I'll give them credit to say they know it. I think it's total BS. But there's this idea that the Mavericks are only good against other good teams this season. If you look at their schedule, like they've lost a lot of games to bad teams, and they've also won games in like very impressive wins over really good teams. I think that is actually playing into the public betting here. And then I think there are people that are like, oh, it's going to be a letdown game after they just won in overtime and Luka had his best game ever. So the opening line was like,
narratives matter to us.
Yeah, no, we don't. We only care about it because other people care about it, and it moves the number.
I hear you there.
Yeah.
All right, so I agree that Luca may have earned a night off. I think it's fascinating that the market already potentially has it baked into a middle. Maybe
That's not
just
why
where
the
we have
line
it.
is moving, though. We have the middle by accident because the public is on Houston.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, what do you think the new line becomes if there is a Luca rest?
I think we're only projecting it around 8. He's not worth nearly as much in this context because I already have a huge manual adjustment for garbage time here, and as we get closer to like a close game, the manual adjustment has to come off. So Luca would be worth like 7 points in a game around Pick'em, but in a game maybe even 8. But like a game on the fringes of blowout territory, his value is not as important. And I'm dinging them a little bit for having played that overtime game in terms of their rest, and Luca not playing mitigates that too because he's the one who's tired. So he's only worth like maybe even 4.5 points in this context. So we wouldn't be projecting a great Houston bet even if Luca's out.
What do you think the timing of that news would look like if it comes?
Early afternoon. Like if it's rest, yeah, it's hard to know because he is dealing with this quad injury that kept him out. There was one game that happened where I thought he would play and he didn't. I'm trying to remember which one that was, but we got his rest situation right a couple of times. But then there was one where maybe it was the Cleveland game where I thought he'd play. Yeah, you know what? We were on here talking about how Dinwiddie would probably rest versus the Cavs, but then Luca and Dinwiddie rested. It was when we had that quote about Kemba playing a lot the next day, where I thought it was low likelihood that Luca would rest, high likelihood for Dinwiddie, and then they actually were both out. Doncic has been he's been dealing with a quad injury, so I don't know if he's 100% right now. They could just blame it on that. This is an island game, by the way, though, not a back-to-back, but they're at a part of the schedule where they can coast a little bit. They have a home game versus Houston, followed by a road game in San Antonio in 2 days. Like, if you're going to give them a game off anytime soon, it should be one of those two. And probably this would be the one, if it's going to be any, because it's coming off of that overtime game. He has had a day now to rest in between, but he still may be kind of tired.
Theoretically, I'm definitely on board with the concept. I like that it's definitely worth talking about, and he's got enough gravity in this situation that we're going to find some value. I'm just trying to find the best ways, and I agree.
The best way is Spencer Dinwiddie.
Yeah, no, I was gonna continue by saying, I think the side may leave us something to nibble on. However, I'm gonna be much more interested in locking and loading Dinwiddie first and going from there.
I'm just finding the Dinwiddie props.
If we do get news that Luke is in, this is a bet though, right? On Dallas?
Yeah, okay. It is. But
we'll take the 2.9 points of value and keep it simple.
Right. Well, the reason I'm saying to wait is because the market is not pricing this in, because the market is not accounting for.
There's no downside to waiting if we want Dallas.
There's minimal downside. Yeah.
Right. No, that's what I'm saying. I'm just saying if we get confirmation that Luke is in, that's the time. Then it's okay to just.
Ideally, in the past, I would have said ideally we get Reggie Bullock out so Josh Green can play more. Josh Green is still out too. Reggie Bullock is questionable. He doesn't matter, but he actually would have been a positive impact to sit when Josh Green is available. Now he's just whatever. So I don't even have him on here. He totally is irrelevant. But
is tonight the game that Kemba was told he should play for these 2 weeks?
I think so.
Okay. All right, just making sure.
Yeah, Kemba's been resting. Like, Kemba's ready to go.
Yeah.
He's been preparing for the next Luka rest game. Like, I think that's why he's on the team.
Is Kemba prop something you're interested in?
I don't think we're not going to see that. That would be, like, I know I say that sometimes and I'm wrong and, like, they post those. Kemba's playing, like, 10 minutes a game normally.
If it is a Luka rest game, does the Kemba factor throw off the Dinwiddie nuclear option?
Yes, but Dinwiddie it's going to be so much EV that we're talking about like a 93% chance of Dinwiddie's props cashing and like an 87% chance. It's so far off market. Like just I have Dinwiddie on
It
screen
may shade
here.
a point or a assist off of a movement of what is probably 5 points and 3 assists.
Sure.
Just
Sure.
think about what the context is for Dallas if Luka doesn't play. So we have a home game versus the Rockets, who are in contention for worst defensive team in the NBA. They also play at a high pace. You also have a much reduced blowout risk because Luka's not there. And the Mavericks tend to play faster when Luka doesn't play. So the game's going to be even higher pace than we expect. Like, I used to bet game total unders when Luka was out. I'm not even sure if I want to do that here.
Got it. Okay.
Because Luka really slows the game down. So the game
I mean,
total would
doesn't
fall a little bit, but it wouldn't fall that
Does
much.
going the other way make sense then?
No, because I think the market will react to it properly. Because the offensive efficiency drops a lot. So, and the other problem is we have value on Dallas already. So, like, for me to say, should we bet the Dallas team total under, doesn't make a ton of sense if we're not showing any value on the Rockets. Like, we don't. I think the market would be pretty
the game total over.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to overcorrect. I don't think the totals haven't moved much when he gets rolled out. Like, it's 225.5 right now. I think it would close at like 221.5 or 222 if he was out.
Got it. All right,
yeah, it's just not going to move that much. If it dropped 8 points, then yeah, I'd be in. But it's good. The total would fall a bit. But basically, there's two bets I want to make, and then iterations of these bets if you can get them. Like, any derivative is probably good too. But Dinwiddie's points prop is 16.5. It probably goes to like 20 if Luka's rolled out. So that's pretty good. The assist prop, I'll just go back to that one, is at 5.5 plus money on the over. That one probably goes up like 2 whole assists to like 7.5. So these are bets that probably have like a 65% chance of winning and then like an 80% chance of winning, give or take a few percentage points because of Kemba. But if you do like a points plus assists or a points assist rebounds, that is a more stable option because, I mean, we can get into a whole thing. I'll just say this quickly, but a player's points and his assists are somewhat negatively correlated because he can only do one on a given possession.
Yeah.
So a points plus assists bet has less upside but less downside. So the safer route for a prop is always going to be a stat combo. Yeah. The stat combo is lower variance. Because as long as the guy plays his minutes, he's going to find some way to pick up those stats.
I didn't think of it that way, but I agree with your analysis there.
So points plus assists. And the thing here is, too, because there is no market, there's no suspicion about Luka Doncic playing today or not, you could actually, if you have a site where you can cash out props, just bet the Dinwiddie stuff now and cash them out. I don't want to get too specific about which ones those are, but
yeah, I don't know that I've seen that as an option.
It's the thing. No, it exists. Yeah, I'm going to keep it vague though.
Thing you could share with us which sites or.
All right, let's move on.
Well,
according to
okay.
that.
You also can always do the thing where you bet back the other side and
Sure.
just take a small loss on the juice. That's an option for anyone on any site. Because remember, Luka is not priced for this. So if he's confirmed in, nothing's going to change for any of the lines.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. I think we got enough covered here on Dallas possibilities. What other game should we be looking at for possible movement?
All right, let me put the value back up. Enough Spencer Dinwiddie for one day.
That's my dude.
Yeah, he's great when the star of his team is out and he gets.
Yeah, he's always been Robin to Batman.
Yeah, and then he once every month he gets to be Batman and he wins all his prop bets very easily.
Yes.
We have 2 other games where we're waiting on news, but I think. Well, I'll start with the one that's simpler. We really like the Pacers if Tyrese Halliburton plays. 4.5 point edge, although I don't think that line is exactly right. Let's see what Unabated has. There are a couple 5.5s, at least one anyway. Bet Rivers has 5.5 there. Yeah, even at 5, like if Halliburton's in, we're showing. I mean, look, we have Cleveland projected -1. So this line is way off if Halliburton's in. He's questionable, and I don't really have a great read on his probability to play. So it's not a terrible bet if you take the Pacers and he gets ruled out, because we'd be showing like it'd be fair then. So
Right.
it might be worth just betting it if you are locked up all day. Like if you're
Okay.
if you're tied up with stuff all day, like maybe just bet it, and then worst case you just have a neutral bet. But if you can wait, like if we get Halliburton goes through shoot around, if we can get anything that's positive about him, I'm waiting for that. Like
Do we have
personally,
a
that's what I'm
Pacers?
doing.
Do we have a Pacers insider Twitter account we should be turning on?
I don't
quickly?
have a go-to yet, but I will certainly tweet it if there's someone specific that we can look for. I think they will have shoot around today because this is a home game without having traveled, so I think we will get an afternoon update of some kind.
Yeah.
They
could-
could game total with mini John Morant here.
Oh yes, that is a good call out. Let's see what we got. 223 right now. My gut is this has already dropped a bit. Let's see what.
I think that just might be Cleveland.
No, this is pretty much in line with the opening total. How much would this drop if he's out? I think it's like 5 points. Like it could be a 1 unit under bet if he doesn't play. I think the market is not really pricing him to be out. I think the Cavs are just overvalued, and the Pacers are
Okay, so
undervalued.
that's kind of my question there.
Yeah.
So all right, I was assuming the market had him heavily weighted to out.
Yeah, the market is probably, if you're thinking he's weighted 80-20 to out by the market, it's actually, I think, the other way. Like he's 80-20 to in by the market, but
And
the
they're
market
just
is
like way on Cleveland more than I expect.
yeah, the market thinks the fair line with Halliburton playing is like 3.5, and the fair line with him out is like 6.5. Whereas we think it's like a 1.5 lower on
So
each side.
that would be a reason not to bet it now, because if Halliburton gets ruled out, this line should move then.
Yeah, the only reason to bet it now is if you are too busy to follow it.
Okay.
That's only if you have like
but if you're able to check before tip off, he might be out and the line might correct itself in a favorable way still, and we may
might,
then get value back on.
we might have the Pacers after it shifts for him, or you could also say I'll just bet it at tip off whatever the line is when he's in. But it'll be lower than this, but it won't be that much lower. Like you could still probably get a plus
So if he's
3.5 at tip
confirmed
off.
in, do you think the line moves to anything?
4, 3.5, something like that. But I don't think it'll come all the way down to what we have. It's not going to go down to 1. It'll probably go down to like 3.5 or 4. The market is like 2.5 points over on Cleveland compared to what we think for this game. Like there's a
Overrated Evan
disagreement
Mobley.
on the quality of these teams that we have going on right here.
Well, they lost Laurie Markkinen also, so how good can they be?
Yeah, they're terrible. No, they're. I mean, the team ratings. Maybe I'll just show what we actually. Where too many tabs. Here we go. That one. We have Cleveland as a 4 and the Pacers at like a half. Cleveland is the better team, but yeah, not by that much. Or not by enough to justify being 5-point favorites on the road. I mean, I could be wrong about how much they're pricing in Halliburton, but this line opened before we got him listed questionable, and it was only at like 4.5. Like, it hasn't moved that much since we got this update. So maybe it was already known that he had gotten hurt the prior game, and I didn't know that. Like, maybe the opening line was pricing it in. But either way, if he's in, we like this. We like them a lot.
Sounds good.
Yeah. He
Got
is,
it.
and he's
All
worth
right,
a lot too. So, like, I think the scenario where he gets ruled out and we still have a bet is probably an unlikely one. We want him to play so that we can have a bet.
Got it. All right. So if Halliburton's in, can you flip to the value tab
Yep.
real quick? So
Yeah.
if Halliburton's in at current price, we're looking at real nice value. So Matt will let us know, or we will let you know overall if anybody can find a reliable Indianapolis insider. Otherwise, we'll just keep an eye on the underdog site. What game we want to move to next?
All right, our favorite team that is now on a 4-game losing streak. New York Knicks.
Aren't they great? Are they even good? Knicks? It's amazing how a couple days changes. But what are we looking at here?
Yeah, we don't actually care a ton if Brunson plays, which is kind of weird because Quickly is that good. And the Knicks actually almost won in Dallas without Brunson. Like, they were up 9 with 34 seconds left. The Knicks played a great game against the Mavs on the road. And then, Luka just went crazy. Like, I watched what happened in that game. The Knicks didn't even do that much wrong. Just Dallas made every shot.
Unbelievable.
It was
that, and I mean, the missed free throw.
They went 5 for 6 at the line in the last 30 seconds. It wasn't like that Chicago game where they missed all the free throws.
No, I'm with you. Yeah. Anyway, so what do we like for tonight?
Vassell and Keldon Johnson are both questionable, and that could be like another 2 or so points against San Antonio. Like, San Antonio, as I'll keep mentioning, has no depth.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought those guys would actually be more valuable than a combined 2 points because of that conversation.
They would be, except we're on like the blowout territory if they're not playing. So their value is diminished because of like the margin of the game. So yeah, if the game were closer to pick them, they'd be worth more. And then there's going to be a bit of compounding if they both don't play. So that I can't really account for here. But yeah, we're going to get some really bad, like Malachi Branham and Blake Wesley or whatever are going to play. Those guys have like -4 and -5 player ratings. And if only one of Johnson or Vassell is out, we only see one of those two guys probably. But if they're both out, then we see both of those players playing. If Brunson's in and Vassell and Keldon Johnson are out, the fair line for this game is like 11.
Wow.
Okay. And the Knicks are -5. But I do think Brunson.
That would have to all break the right way.
I also think Brunson's not playing. Like, if he was anywhere near healthy, he would have played against the Mavericks. Sure. That was his first game back in Dallas after playing 4 years to start his career with that team, and they didn't even play him for that. Like, he probably doesn't play tonight.
I think it reduces the chances for sure.
So what I really want to see is Brunson get ruled out early and this line actually falls a bit, and then we get the Spurs guys ruled out after, and then we bet the Knicks at a lower number. That's perfect. That's perfect scenario. But because we're showing an edge here either way, basically I'm just waiting for once we get news that's pro Knicks or anti Spurs, either one, that's when I'm betting. So if we get Brunson in, or we get Johnson Vassell out, and it could be either or, it doesn't have to be both. If we get a positive Knicks or a negative Spurs update, that's when I'm betting the Knicks. And then if there's another positive indicator, then I'll probably add. But I think it's I think it's like a 1.5 unit bet if we either get Brunson confirmed in or went through shoot around would be fine too. And then the other side of it, 1.5 unit bet if we get Vassell, Keldon Johnson ruled out, one or the other, or both. And if we get both ruled out, I may even bet more than that. So we definitely are going to have Knicks bets tonight. It's just a matter of degree, and it's kind of hard to know what the degree is right now. But I don't think you bet it now. I think the only way you bet it now is if you're busy the entire day, similar to the Indiana thing. I think better is to just wait for the first update. Because if Brunson gets ruled out, you're going to be able to get a better number.
Got it. All right. So, a lot of possibilities for really good value here, depending on how the news breaks. But hold off for now. Keep an eye on the Preaching Sense Twitter account for directives as the news breaks.
I have something to say about both of the other remaining games. Matt, do you have a preference?
I don't have much, so yeah, let me hear it.
So, I mean, I'm seeing Charlotte with about 2 points of value against OKC. This just tends to be what has been most OKC lines this year. Charlotte's burned us a few times, but that was mostly pre-LaMelo. Are you looking at anything there? Are you going to stay away? Or, obviously any news breaks pro Charlotte or anti OKC, we could probably get in there. But
yeah,
any thoughts on that immediately?
I think if Charlotte winds up being a slight underdog for some reason, because I have to imagine the public is on the Thunder, it's too early in the day to like really trust what the public betting percentages are. So I'm not even going to pull them up, and also who's betting on this game this early in the morning. But there will be some people who are like, the Thunder are 8 games ahead of them in the standings or whatever and want to bet the Thunder. So there's 2 ways we have a bet here, I think, or a good bet anyway. If the line moves where Charlotte is like plus 100 on the money line, I'm definitely in. Or if we get someone ruled out. So we already have Kelly Oubre ruled out for Charlotte. And we got their injury report yesterday, so if they were going to sit other players, I think we would have heard by now. But could we get a random Shea rest game because this is a team they prefer to lose to? Yeah, that's definitely like, that's 5%. Like that's within the range of outcomes. So keeping an eye on these tanking matchups, it hasn't worked that great for us because
Where
these
is
guys,
Charlotte overall in the tankathon?
they're way at the bottom. They are tied for the. I think they're
look down as far as you can in the standings.
they're tied with the Pistons. I think.
That would be a great spot if Jordan got the Frenchman. I would like to see that. It's the only way he's going to have a winning franchise.
Let me see.
If Jordan If Jordan got Wembanyama?
Yeah.
The Pistons are 9-28. The Hornets are 9-26. Those are the two worst records in the NBA right now.
Good for them.
Yeah. So,
all right.
but
nice
OKC is
one.
OKC is 15-19. They probably are like, we got to start losing some games. I don't think they're actually going to rest anyone tonight, but this is a game to keep an eye on. Yeah, there could be news.
Interesting.
Got it. All right. And what's the other game, Mike?
On the opposite end of the spectrum, now
Boston?
obviously the Clippers had this weird game against the Pistons recently, but honestly, this team has been, in my eye test, they've been covering a lot recently. They've been overperforming potentially. Boston, they won on Christmas, but it was a little rocky before then. Certainly not looking to have a bet here, but curious how you think this game unfolds.
Not going to have a bet here because look where the market is now.
Where's the market?
Everything just went to 6.5 and 7. We were showing a slight edge at Boston minus 5.5. There are no 5.5s left. So I didn't bet it. I'm not going to now because the line is basically fair. I would really like for Boston to win just because that most wins for the year bet is looking like it's in a bit of jeopardy with Brooklyn specifically. I have Celtics division bets too. So I'm hoping the Celtics can just, get back on a winning streak. But we also have some interesting stuff. Maybe with nothing else to talk about today, we can look at the Pacific Division after the Booker update. Should we revisit that for a minute before we jump off?
I'm happy to go to any.
Let's go ahead and let's take a look at that.
All right.
We saw, Mike, you found a plus 250 for.
You're not finding that now.
I thought that was worth grabbing immediately and figuring out what to do after.
All right. I'm getting some odds from different places. Let me see. Okay. The bet that
I don't use 538 as gospel, but I like using it as reference.
The bet that I like is actually not on the Clippers. Okay. Where did that go?
Okay. Is there suddenly value on the Warriors?
Yes. So what I have here is DraftKings, okay? The Suns are the favorites, plus money. Like, they're below 50%. I think we would all agree on that. Booker's going to be out a while. The Clippers are plus 160. I think if you got plus 250, that's definitely good, especially with the Suns losing last night. So this got better even after the Booker update because Phoenix lost to Washington. So another game that they were favored, they didn't win. So the Clippers line has dropped a bit. If the Clippers beat Boston on the road tonight, like, that's a pretty big deal, like a game they're not supposed to win. Plus 160 at that point, I think, is plus EV. Like, this is fringe for me. I think the Clippers are around 40% to win the division, which is also about what I think the Suns are. But I think the Warriors are like 15% approaching there. And on DraftKings, you can see there's no value, right? Plus 475. On FanDuel, though, and maybe some other sites, the Warriors are 9-1.
Yeah, it's 8-1 on Bet Rivers.
Yeah. But so 8-1 potentially also, yeah.
That's a territory I'm getting pretty interested in.
That's such a large disagreement between two major sites to have.
I agree.
And even Sacramento at 12-1, I think, is like on the cusp of plus EV also. Because Sabonis did play last night, which is not what we wanted for our, missing the playoffs bets, although I still think those, like...
Plus 700.
I don't think those are bad anyway. The 538 has the Kings right now with a 37% chance to make the playoffs, even with Sabonis in. But the Warriors just beat Memphis, Charlotte, Utah. And every time they win, Curry is a little bit less bad that he's out. The Warriors right now are 18-18. If I have that right, yeah. Phoenix is 20-16. And the Clippers are 21-15. They're 2 and 3 games back of these two teams. And if the Warriors are healthy, they're better than both of them. At least while Booker is out. So
So are you making a bet right now on Golden State plus 900?
I took it last night after they beat the Jazz. Yeah. For a really small amount, like I'll call it a tenth of a unit or something. This is an averaging in based on what happens over the next week. Like that's how I'm trading this.
Gotcha.
So I put it, the bet is to win 1 unit at like almost 10 to 1.
You bet small enough to where you have to write it on your sheet, so you have to look at it tomorrow. So you have to remind yourself.
Yeah, people who have spreadsheets will understand this. It's like a placeholder bet. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing. And it's also a hedge against other, like we've already talked about the Clippers as a good bet for this division. We didn't talk about Phoenix as a good bet for this division, but I have them from before the season. So partly what I'm doing is hedging, but I do think there's value at plus 900. But I'm less excited about it if the Clippers win tonight, but that's not going to change the Warriors by too much. What would really change it is we get an update that Curry is coming back in like 2 weeks. That would be monumental for the Warriors. So I hate rooting for this team.
Approximate timeline?
I think it's supposed to be like another 3 or 4. He's going to be back before Devin Booker in all likelihood. And he matters more, like he's a better player. But the Warriors this year, at least while Cam Johnson is out and while Jay Crowder's not playing, are a better team than the Suns. The other thing, though, is Cam Johnson is supposed to be back soon. And Cameron Payne probably will also be back soon. And there is a world where we're talking about Phoenix as the value bet, but we're not there yet. Like if Phoenix gets up to plus 200 at some point in the next week or two, we're probably going to be revisiting this at some point. And like this division is getting weird because we have injuries to every team. Well, except for the Clippers for now, but they have Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. Like it's only a matter of time. So yeah, this division has gotten crazy. And I think right now the buy low spot is the Warriors, where I think a lot of people, like if you got in the plus 200 to plus 300 range for the Clippers already, that's good. But to bet them this low is chasing a lot of steam. Like to bet them in the plus 150 range. Yeah, it's corrected enough.
I've got an opposite coast division question for you, Matt.
I can do a bit of scrolling.
So looking at the standings right now, looking at the Atlantic Division.
Yeah.
The Celtics are in first with 10 losses. Nets have 12 losses. Sixers have 13. The odds are Boston minus 550, Brooklyn plus 550, Sixers plus 1,300.
Yeah, we can have Philly bets. I think Philly's fine.
I was going to say, is there value there for Philly at plus 1,300 with Tyrese Maxey set to come back at some point, and the hope that someday Doc Rivers remembers that Matisse Thybulle's probably better than Daniel House just by a little bit, and probably better by PJ Tucker by just a little bit. Is there enough upside there that plus 1,300 makes sense to take a nibble?
Yeah, I think they're north of 10%. Like, they're probably a little bit less likely to win the division than the Warriors are, but the odds are a bit higher. Tyrese Maxey is playing tomorrow. This is a good time to bring this up.
Okay. What do we think about the Nets at 550? You said the Nets are 550 in that division?
Yeah, that's not enough.
Back?
That's not enough. The Celtics are just better than them by a lot. I know, like right now that seems weird to say because the Nets are on this major winning streak. The Nets have lucked into a bunch of these wins. And they had, I think it was 2 really impressive ones. They had the win in Cleveland, but that was a game that was a coin flip anyway, like projected and the real line. The home game versus Milwaukee that they won, Middleton was still out. Like that was another one. They were small favorites. And then in all these other games, they faced either bad teams or like injured teams. They faced the Hawks last night without Trae Young and Clint Capella. We could go back and look at all of them, but the Nets have been really good lately. I still don't think they're anywhere near as good as the Celtics. So the Nets were 28 to 1 to win the division like 2 weeks ago. 550 is like, it's not going to get that much lower than that. Unless, Boston
I do think it was
losing.
A mistake to not look at Celtics, shorting the Celtics when their odds were just so astronomical at every place, where it's just like the steam had gotten way too far on the Celtics, in my opinion.
It did, but none of us
I love the Celtics, don't get me wrong.
None of us thought that at the time, though.
I think I agree with you there.
It's only in hindsight that you can say that because none of us thought that at the time. We were
I
looking
know,
at the
but I think
Celtics
that's
winning. We were looking at them winning like 70 games about a month ago.
And
I'm
somebody
trying to
on the
say
show,
what
somebody on the show was talking about Boston as a historically great team.
what I'm trying to say
Somebody
is,
may have lost all his friends in Philadelphia from that comment, but
You're going to win
life
him
goes
back
on.
by betting the Sixers at 13-1 to win
That's
the
right.
division.
Plus
That's how you get
1,300,
friends
boys.
back.
Get on board now.
what I'm trying to say is perhaps us, giving them crowns and having them better than the prime Bulls teams. I think that should have been an indicator that maybe this team has gone way too far. There's probably a ton of value at other places in these markets. That's all.
Yeah, I guess the only thought there is the Nets at the time that we were talking about that, the Nets it looked like they were imploding. There was actually talk of Kyrie maybe not playing again.
Yeah.
So at that point, it was pretty tough to get on board with them. And
These
that was
all
also,
feel like indicators to buy to me. I feel like the markets don't
I'm with
properly
you.
overreact to
You
these.
had your
That's
chance.
obviously being results oriented, so I'm going to try to move on from this.
There was
you had
at that
chance
point
to
it was
get
way
it.
more likely the Nets were going to miss the playoffs than it was that they were going to win the division, and we can go back and look at how dumb we sound now and it would probably be funny, but that was true at the time. It was just true at the time, and then things changed. So
it never hurts to just take a ridiculously contrarian take and just save it for a clip in case you need to pull it out later if things go that way.
Yeah,
so it's always a good play. Shout out to Skip Bayless, the king of that.
Yeah, if Malik Beasley wins Sixth Man of the Year, I'm still sitting on that one.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. There's a 10-second moment in history where that's recorded. All right. All right. So there's a lot of stuff in flux today.
Yep.
Potential value for the Pacers if Halliburton's in. Potential value for the Mavs if Luke is in. Potential Dinwiddie props, as always, if Luke is out. A few other things in flux. Let's watch those Knicks, Spurs.
Yeah, I have to call out one more thing. I know you're wrapping up, but we forgot one game.
Sure.
Fred VanVleet is probably not playing tonight.
Okay.
We have value on Toronto, but you can't bet that until we have that confirmation. So
Got it.
yeah, this is, I think, stay away unless we get for sure that he's in. I think he's almost certainly sitting tonight, and then it's just a no bet. So this is similar to Dallas, where hold off on taking whatever's there. Yeah, his name is listed, so at least people will understand.
I forced us to skip that game by accident. I'm sorry.
No, that's because of Toronto. Yeah, and Toronto plays again tomorrow.
No. I thought we had already talked about it. And just I framed it let's talk about the other two games that I just went by it by accident.
No, it was the only game left, so I figured I'd give it a quick shout out before we wrap up because that looks like it's on the territory of a bet, but I don't think VanVleet is playing tonight.
All right, I got a fun trivia question to leave us on. I hadn't verified this, but I did hear it on the Bill Simmons podcast. I'm going to throw it out there. Two players in NBA history have career averages of at least 24 points a game, 10 rebounds a game, and 6 assists a game. One is playing now, one is retired. Who are the two players?
How long should we say?
I'm sorry, 20 points. 20 points
10, and 6?
Career average. 20, 10, and 6.
Well, Jokic.
Yes, that's one.
I got the easy one.
Yeah.
Arvydas Sabonis.
No.
Is he close? Do you know?
The right skin color. That should give it away.
Is it Larry Bird?
It is Larry Bird.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool.
Bird and Jokic are the only two with 20 points, 10 rebounds, 6 assists, career averages.
Bird had a career average of 10 rebounds?
Yeah.
That surprises me.
It was easy. It was easy back then when no one ever scored.
What a great rebounder he was.
There was a lot of rebounding to go around when no one ever scored when he played.
Average field goal percentage was 26%.
Yeah, maybe.
There's still plenty of guys taller, longer, faster, higher jumpers that didn't average 10 during that same time.
The game was slower. There were less possessions. I'll give him credit for that.
That's true. Yeah, they were winning 74-72.
Yeah. Jokic is
all
better,
right. So just leaving you on that. Guys, as always, keep an eye on the Preaching Sense Twitter account. Matt will try to give us updates. We'll try to give us more specific things. We are pressing him to tell us.
I'm flying to Indiana after the show to figure out if Halliburton's at shoot around. So I'll let you guys know.
Appreciated.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are asking for specific directions on what to do, not just these generic musings from Meiselman. So Keep an eye on the Preaching Sense Twitter account. What's the plan tomorrow? Are we morning show tomorrow?
I think
or
normal
afternoon? I
time.
can't remember what you said.
Saturday and Sunday we'll figure out later, but I think tomorrow normal
Gotcha.
time.
All right, 10:15 a.m. tomorrow. We'll have the whole gang back again. Talk to you then.
All right. See it.